kNOwBOX Dance presents Dance Behind the Screen, Process Production, and Social Media. Don't forget, say no to the box. Dile no a la caja. 고정관념이란 상자에서 벗어나세요.
Welcome back to Dance Behind the Screen podcast. This is your co-host, Azaria, and I am the manager of resources and archives for kNOwBOX Dance.
This is your co-host, Reyna, and I'm the manager of community engagement for kNOwBOX Dance.
This is your co-host, Yejin, and I am the programming director for kNOwBOX Dance.
Hello. This is your co-host, Marthea, and I'm the managing director for kNOwBOX Dance.
For this episode, I like to start up with a quote from the second edition book titled Making Video Dance by Katrina McPherson. In any case, at whatever stage the composer with whom you are working becomes involved, you need to share with them ideas and inspirations behind your project and discuss thoughts on mood, structure, influences, and even the types of sounds and instruments you imagine being used. For today's episode, we will be discussing the importance of music for dance film, its impact on your creative process, and the collaboration process between you and the composer. Shall we get started, team?
Let's do it.
Yay!
All right.
I can't wait to talk about this with y'all.
I've really been so excited about this episode. I'm always excited about all of our episodes, but I really wanted to dig deep into what music looks like in our creative process. So to start us off, is music an important factor for your dance film?
Yes, and I seem to work with music in my dance films differently a little bit each time, but for the most part, yes, it's an important factor.
I really love the John Cage quote, all sound is music, especially when it comes to dance and film. I actually learned that the sounds like scratching or the leaves or the wind is called foley. And I think that that is just as important as I think what we're going to get into today, talking about working with a composer and stuff. But I think I just love to think about it in that way. Actually, I have to say, I used to, for my dance appreciation courses, I would make them sit and watch the entire 433 to help them understand like abstract thought and things like that. So I think that it's pretty cool to think about sound in that way.
For those who don't know 433 or aren't familiar with John Cage's work, will you explain what happens in that?
Yes, of course. It's my favorite part. So the piano player walks out onto the stage and essentially like sets a timer and just sits there in what we think of as silence. And then you'll like hear like the turning of the page throughout. And I just love it because I remember like all my students in the class would be looking at each other like, are we missing something? Like, is there some sounds happening that we don't know? So I think that that's a cool way to, think about it.
What about the music impacts your work?
So I work with two primary ways. So one, I might have the music already selected and some choreography that's meant to align. I don't like to work this way. I find it a little bit difficult in dance film, particularly just because sometimes the rate of time or the frames can get like slightly off when you try to get the music back in there. And I like finding different moments of alignment when they're not purposely choreographed together. So the times that I do choreograph them together, it's being meticulous about aligning certain parts with what I envisioned. Since I do a lot of my own editing, I like to be able to play around, and I don't like to be married to the music too much when it comes to pre-production. But post-production, I am obsessed with finding moments of alignment between the video and the music that wasn't pre-planned, or like having to blow up the music file to like the largest view so that you can find that one peak or silence that you align your videos with. That's probably the most exciting part for me
I teach Korean dance in this semester, and in Korean dance, we call it akgamu, meaning as a dancer, it's important how you sing, how you play music, how to dance. So if you major in Korean dance, you have to play several instruments, like Korean traditional instruments, and then you have to bring it, like hold it or hang it, and then you have to dance. We have specific traditional dance which can dance and play music at the same time. Then you have to also sing. I hate that part. So, because when you play, you can also understand the body mechanism, meaning that in Korean dance, we don't count like even, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's same 4 counts, but we have specific rhythm and name of it, and then how we call the rhythm. So, dong dong kung
Dong, dong.
I knew you would say that. I knew it.
I was ready with my Korean rhythms.
So dong means you play, thank you, both of your hands. Kung means right, left hands. Ta means you play a drum with right hands, right? So when you actually like inhale and then drop your arms, you can hear more like echoing sound from the drum. And then when you have like play hard and then you're make like form, not like fluently touch it, you can hear less echo sounds. And once you understand that mechanism, when you jump, like plie and jump, and then you put it from your toes and then go down deeper, etc., you receive the gravity, you have same feeling. Then you jump and then just straight your legs and then go down with your entire feet, not sharing your weight. So once we play that one, we understand how we need to use our body, and not just you dance at 1 and 2, but how you dance in between, how you fulfill the energy, like tong, dong, like at between 1 and 2. So I think I understand now better. I'm not teaching like 5, 6, 7, I'm sorry, 5, 6, 7, 8. Instead of I say that one, they just like play with this rhythm so they can fulfill the entire rhythms or tempo rather than just counting it and weight it and make a form. And another one is when you sing, you can understand your body like kinesthetic responses. Some people it's very fast, some people it's very slow. So I think it's a good way to, like we do meditation, right? We all have like different rhythms. So when you sing, you can also actually understand how your vibration from the lungs, like also that like inside of body moving, you can also feel it. So I think music is as important as dance because it's not just we're playing the instruments, either you're playing the instruments through dance or not, your body is the instrument.
That was good. And it also reminds me of a lot of West African dance. A lot of time it'll be referred to the dance and the music being married together, right? So that one influences the other. It's not, I'm just dancing to music or the music's just playing for me. There's a dialogue between the two and they're very interdependent. And same with the singing too, like the singing, the dancing, the music are all very much intertwined as a unit rather than like separate individuals.
Exactly.
I love that you said that it's referred to as dance and music married together. And I think that's so perfect because, teaser alert, for the next episode, Reyna is actually interviewing her husband, Pepe, who is a musician and composer. And they are married together. And so I feel like it makes me want to know, like, what is that process like for you, Reyna? Because we haven't heard from you much in terms of collaborating with the composer.
I always like to say, I refer to time as slow or fast. I refer to instruments, right? Kind of like going back to that quote that I read earlier, knowing that the instrument that you'd like to be presented is really important. Like, what do you imagine? Why is that instrument important for you? And letting them know that is really important. You can be even more specific and say you want minimalist. That's also a term that they love. So yeah, those are just like some terms, and I believe I use most of those terms with him. He is a very minimalist artist, and I love that. Also, if you know what style do you want? Do you want something ambient? Do you want something minimalist? Do you want something, you can go as classical as Baroque, right? So knowing that, also knowing like, hey, I want something that's like, knowing to speak in genres is really helpful as well.
So when you talk about moods, a lot of times I find myself referring to colors, and luckily the people I collaborate with kind of know my madness or have either played for me in class or we've connected because I like their kind of music. I don't know that that would be able to work with everyone, but I'm like, I needed to be like a blue, like a,
I like that.
you know, and I'm like, does that make any sense? And they're like, yeah, it does. So I don't know that that would be helpful with everyone, but I definitely think having somebody who either understands what you like I've collaborated with Ian Erickson and he plays for my classes. So we've had several years for him to kind of understand what I like and develop that in the classroom so that when it comes to collaboration, there's an understanding of some of the style that I like. And then I've also connected with David Dingus, who we have an episode with him. And I connected with him because I like his music. And so then I can go to sounds that he's already created and I'm like, something like this, or I may give him a sound bite of something else. I'm like, this is kind of the feel that I want. I think there's certain styles that I'm attracted to, and the people that I work with tend to understand or know that.
Azaria, musicians love when you talk colors. They really do. They love, because, and Pepe's told me this before, musicians can also see music in color. And so that's really interesting to me.
There's a term for that.
It's like called synesthesia. Synesthesia is when you hear music, but you see shapes or you hear colors.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the color ideas. And I also agree what Reyna said, not sharing the video beforehand, so you listen music. One of the musicians I recently worked with, we worked several times, but this time he said, Yejin, you don't have to share example musics, like another musician's music. Because he said, just reverse it, think about it. I ask you to choreograph something on my music, but I share some choreographer's performance video. And I was like, it's not about like, she wants to put me down, but it's kind of like trap, but I wanted to share it too, like, because I don't know how to explain. So I just like, this is kind of like style that I expect, but he prefers just starting from the zero and not thinking about that example musics.
I've never thought about that, but I could understand how that could really pigeonhole, like, okay,
yeah,
you just make this again.
Right. And yeah, it really helped me. And one time he visited my rehearsal and asked dancers, you guys, can you make sound and do the same choreography? And then that's kind of one we did in our improvisation, like boom, papi, whatever. They're like shaking, ha. And then all dancers create really different musics. And then he captured that one, like put music instruments, like how the vocal sounds similar to certain kind of music instruments. And it really matched with the theme and the musicality.
That's so cool.
That was really cool.
That.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important starting from the beginning of my rehearsal, starting with like lighting designer, musician, it's good. So we can find the skeleton, not just they put in the muscles or fat. I don't know if that makes sense. At the end, after I make the skeleton.
That's such a clear metaphor for collaboration.
Yeah.
I love that you use that. We should come back to that because I think that that's like one of the coolest things, or in my experience of creating a dance film, is working in collaboration. And I think with dance film, it's so unique because after, the recording, it's like there's like capturing the footage, there's an entire different process, like the post-production process. And I feel like having the collaboration throughout as like the connector, as the through line, is what I think can really like enhance the world of the film.
And to add to that, they also love when you speak texture.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of bring that up too.
I love that. I learned that when I was working with Keith at TWU. I'm like obsessed with plastic, as y'all know. And I remember like telling him this idea, and we like took a trip to Home Depot, and we like went down the aisles, and we would like, I thought we were crazy, honestly, because I like am the kind of person in the store that like keeps to herself. But we like went to all these random objects that were made of plastic, and like he would just start making sounds with them. And then it was like so fun and so liberating. And I feel like now I'm so much like more open anyway, life lesson. But it was really fun. Like we would go down the aisle and then record like video or sound, like playing with the texture of different plastics. And then it created this like, we sampled all these sounds, and then we created this cool, like we'd sit next to each other, and like he would teach me kind of like how he was using different like of these plastic instrument samples to create movement or to create music. And then it made me think of like, that's kind of how like I work with choreography and movement generation too, is working with dancers to like sample different ideas and then creating a common language together. And so I love that you said that about textures. It's really cool.
All right. So as artists, do you think it is important for us to encourage more dancers to collaborate with composers when it comes to dance film, and why?
Yeah. I mean, just off what I was just saying about Keith and like what we've done with Pepe and with Lucas and so many other musicians, I think that collaborating in general, specifically with musicians, though, can really provide a very rich and deep process for learning how to communicate an idea to someone, and someone who isn't living inside your head or someone who's not a dancer. Because I think that as dancers, oftentimes we can communicate in one way and understand each other. And I think that extra push to communicate to people who might not be dancers or might not be even familiar with movement in that way can really push. It pushes me as a creative to think about like how to explain it. Like you guys were saying, like, is it through, do I need to show pictures? I love to share like a lot of different pictures or videos, or is it just shapes or like patterns or whatever? Like it really helps you to kind of solidify your idea and communicate it out and not just like keep everything inside.
Yeah, I'm going to second that, especially for students. I think it's a very valuable skill set, like Marthea was saying, and it gets you out of the mindset of basically what I feel like ends up happening is creating a music video, which is nothing wrong with that if that's the intent. But a lot of times it's like, all right, my dance is exactly as long as this pre-recorded thing, and you're making everything for that song rather than making your dance and finding something that supports. And I had one student who worked with her boyfriend who was a musician, and they created
Cute.
It was cute. And the music, I remember because she was in my composition class, like hearing about the struggles of that composition. And it's a learning process, and I do think it's a valuable one, but her dance now has so much more mobility because inside of the university structure, we can cover copyrights, but then outside of it, you're stuck. You know, you have to maybe re-choreograph or make a new song because you can't post your dance online. It can't go to this festival because you don't have the rights to the music. And working with someone, most likely they're going to give you the rights to use that music, and so that you can find that there's less barriers when it comes to taking your work to multiple places.
Like as a dancer, we can also think about like a lot of musicality, right? Either people can hear it or not, like tempo, like the rate of the speed and the duration, how you can see something. Like sometimes the work is too fast, but for some people it's too slow. So there are a lot of ways to think about musicality. So working with another musicians or not, it's your choice. But I think it is important to think about musicality in your work. I think it will amplify, think about other factors which can develop your work.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you guys are saying. Two, it's building community, building your people, knowing who you can go to when you need that support, whether it's your dance film or it's dance on stage or site specific. It's really important to make those connections.
I also think that it can create a sense of connection and like community and like a touch point for an audience who maybe is like there with like their friend or their partner to watch a dance film or watch a dance and might not really feel connected and could leave feeling totally transformed because of this music that maybe they have a relationship with before. And I feel like we didn't really talk a lot about that, but I think that that's a huge part of dance film specifically. Is a lot of films we do see isn't original composition. Some films are using these songs that are very popular or very nostalgic and can evoke such a specific emotion or mood or theme like we're talking about. And so I'm wondering, like, how can users, like how can creators get the rights to those kinds of songs, like, or what are resources, like, do you know about like how we could go about getting those kinds of copyrights, or is there websites that y'all know of that we could explore?
Find music in the public domain if you can, so that you don't have to. And then
can you explain what that is for our listeners who might not be familiar?
Yes. So music that's in the public domain. So for a lot of popular music, I think it's like 100 years or something. There's a certain amount of time. So if that work is
100 years, yeah.
Yeah, if that work is 100 years old, it enters in the public domain. So you don't have to pay rights to somebody who's gone and passed. And it basically becomes usable for everyone. And then I would also say just reach out to those people or their team, because you might get a better rate than you were expecting. For example, I just reached out to an artist whose work I'm using and I love her work and I was expecting to pay, but she was like, "Oh, I'm in between management. Like, go for it, use it." I'm like talking to the artist directly and she's like, "Send me a video while you're like when you're done with the project." I'm like, "This is crazy." And then there's other ones where I either have to determine whether it's worth my money for what I'm making, because a lot of my projects maybe aren't going to make a ton of money. You might be in communication with their team and have to pay $500 for the rights to the music, or $100, and it might only be for one-time use. But reach out, because you never know who's willing to work with you or who's willing to work with your budget.
I, of course, want to recommend Michael Wall. We interviewed him, Yejin and I did, back at episode 7, and we talked all about Sound for Movement, which is his online platform that he created. And if you go and check out his website, you can find music, you can ask to collaborate, look for licensing, and he even has a multi-level membership plan, so you have access to his music.
Our episode 19, Lynn Lane, founder, artistic director for Transitory Sound and Movement Collective. Episode 59, Jonathan Barrow. We didn't talk about music that much, but I wanted to. Actually, Marthea shared this resource. I recommend his collaborative work, 42 Portraits. And Jonathan Barrow was the choreographer, and also he wrote the lyrics, and composer Marthea Fargens.
I would recommend, if you don't already know, SoundCloud and Bandcamp. Those are great places to go if you're looking for new types of music. You can usually search by genre. And then there's a whole various levels of artists. So you might find somebody who's well-known or newer, and that can be a good way to be able to communicate with somebody in particular and maybe get free licensing or a discounted rate. And then I'll also say Elise Watman. She is an artist who is open to collaborating. We can put her information in the show notes as well. She's happy to work with students for a discounted rate as well.
And if you're listening and you're a musician or you work with a musician who wants to be considered for collaborative projects, we would be happy to include you on our website. So shoot us a DM and we'll get you included.
Fun talk. I loved it. Thank you, Reyna.
Thank you, guys. Can't wait for y'all to listen.
The kNOwBOX Dance Film Festival, NBFF, is now accepting submissions for its 4th year as an independent film festival. NBFF seeks dance-related films that challenge the possibilities of what dance can look like in video form. NBFF has 3 categories for submissions: summer short series, general, and documentaries. For more information and how to apply, visit filmfreeway.com/kNOwBOX Dance Film Festival. kNOwBOX Dance Film Festival. Visit our website, kNOwBOXDance.com, or DM us on social media.
Thanks for taking your time to tune into Dance Behind the Screen, a bi-monthly interview series where we go behind the screen to question process, product, and social media. Be sure to follow us on social media at kNOwBOX Dance. See you next time, and don't forget to say no to the box.